think clearly most people in the world do not want any more countries to have nuclear weapons. But it's kind of hard to rally international public opinion on this question when the U.S. seems to have such a double standard, the one you described, that if you're with us you can have a bomb, if you're against us you can't. You can't rally global opinion on that. And second of all, if the U.S. and Britain keep putting more money into new weapons, what credibility have they got to say anything on these questions?
Well, no credibility whatsoever, but it's worse than that, because what was really born at 9/11, and I don't think people have quite awakened to what this was, it's not just the fact of a double standard, it's a systematization of it. And furthermore, the idea that those who currently possess nuclear weapons should use military force all around the world to stop other countries from obtaining them, or at least those who are considered to be the bad countries, the bad guys, and so forth.
This is what you call how the Cold War has been replaced with disarmament wars.
Yes, exactly. So we've already had one of those disarmament wars in Iraq. Turned out they didn't have the weapons, but that policy still remains. And it's a formula for warfare all over the world. And most recently, of course, we see the threat of a war with Iran. And I already mentioned the op-ed piece suggesting we might have to intervene militarily in Pakistan. Now, those are crazy ideas, frankly. But imagine if this were done. The United States then would be at war with 4 contiguous Muslim countries, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran, and Iraq, all at the same time. Well, I don't think this is going to happen because it's too unreal. But the very fact that people are thinking this way shows the extremes to which this mistaken policy has driven people here in the United States.
The only convincing position internationally about nuclear weapons will be some legitimate program of denuclearizing the current nuclear weapon-holding powers, but that's not even in the conversation. It's certainly not a discourse at all in the U.S. in the coming U.S. elections. The whole question of the fate of nuclear bombs, of the nuclear powers. Why doesn't anybody even talk about this?
I think that there are some signs that that may be beginning to change. There was a very interesting and important article in the Wall Street Journal back in January of this year. It was signed by none others than former Secretary of State George Shultz, former Secretary of State Kissinger, former Secretary of Defense William Perry, and former Senator Sam Nunn, all formers but weighty characters.
Not a group known as peaceniks.
Not a group known as peaceniks, and yet they have stepped forward to call for a world free of nuclear weapons. And they have cited precisely some of the things we're talking about. So it's quite a shift in thinking. And Barack Obama, in a recent major foreign policy speech, actually embraced that goal. And John Edwards has done so a little more perfunctorily, and Bill Richardson as well. So I think we're actually seeing the beginnings of a discussion that may be about to break out. Certainly it's way overdue, and I hope it does, because the current policy is leading us into multiple disasters. People are getting worked up about the situation in Pakistan, and rightly so. Same thing with Iran. Same thing with North Korea. But what I want to suggest is that it's impossible to come to grips with or understand what's going on in any of those countries if you don't look at the larger picture of what the U.S.-led policy has been since 9/11. And that policy, as we've been saying, has been to seek to stop proliferation with military force. And it's failed for one reason or another everywhere it has been tried. And so it's actually provoking the very evil that it's meant to address. So what's really needed in each of these places is a turnaround, a 180-degree turnaround in American policy in concert with Europe and the rest of the world, members of the UN Security Council, in which you turn back to the old system of trying to address proliferation with diplomacy and political agreements of the kind that produced the Non-Proliferation Treaty in the first place.